Good evening. Welcome to Moments with Lady K and Mistah T Show, where they converse on motivational living, clearing negativity from your life, local events, and more. Here are your hosts, Kimberly McLemore and Teryck Coles.
All right, hello and welcome to Moments with Lady K and Mistah T. We are your hosts, Kimberly McLemore, and we have Teryck Coles, better known as Lady K and
Mistah T.
Dun, dun, dun. Hi, Mr. T. How are you, darling?
Oh, I am awesome, Lady K. Happy to be able to talk with you today and be here for this wonderful new release in 2020. How are you?
I'm doing good. It has been a busy weekend as usual, and here we are again on our first, as you said, our first show for the season, and we are doing them now on our own platform. It'll be on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. once a month. So that's the best part about it. So for those who missed us during the week, and are too busy trying to do other things, now you have something new to look forward to. And that's the amazing show with Lady K and Mistah T. So yeah, I'm excited. And, I can't believe that we're already in March, which is really even scarier, right?
Yeah. I mean, the year's already moving. Oh my gosh.
Too fast. Everything is too fast, but it is what it is. So, we just have to keep going with the flow. So, as we know that our big topic for tonight is going with the flow gets you nowhere. So I'm excited to jump in that. But before we get into the real good topic of discussion for our listeners, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself there, Mr. T?
Oh, well, thank you. What can I say? Well, I am, of course, the owner-operator of Move with T. That's MOVEWITHTEE, based here in Northern Virginia, right outside our nation's capital of Washington, D.C. I am a fitness instructor, teaching cycle, Zumba, bar. Those are probably my favorites right now. And I have a couple of other certifications as well that I don't utilize as much, but all instructors have their favorites. I'm also a doggy daddy to a wonderful Shih Tzu named Pepper, who I had to put away so he wouldn't be making any noises during our recording because he likes to be in the mix. He's like our unofficial, as you said, he's like our unofficial co-host,
right?
Because he always finds a way to get in there. I'm also an uncle, so of a wonderful niece who is totally awesome, and I'm a writer contributor for the Z Beat, and I want to say I think that's all. I feel like I'm missing something, but hey, what can we do?
Hey,
and I'm the co-host. But
Go ahead.
And I'm the co-host of our wonderful podcast, Moments with Lady K and Mistah T.
Da 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 da! Yay! Well, I'm gonna get my little shameless clap in there. I love my little. Here we go. Just amazing. So, yes, you have a whole lot. There's a whole lot going on with T. And I will say that for those who did miss that amazing interview I did back in February, on February 21st with Mr. T. Well, of course, we call him, not just Mr. T, but it's all about Teryck. And oh my gosh, it was an amazing interview. And for those who missed it, you definitely need to go and back and listen to it. And it's on my other show, which is the Your Resource for Success podcast show here also on iHeartRadio. And if you think you knew everything about him, you're wrong. So if you missed that, go back and listen to that show for February 21st. I'm telling you, it will blow your mind, because I even learned, it was from February 20th, that I even, learned more about him that I didn't even know. So It's always such a pleasure to have you and have an opportunity to be around you, because I just learn something more and more about you all the time, and I'm still learning. So that's a good thing. That means you're still growing.
Well, there you go. There you go. And you said something that I like to say. My grandmother likes to say, when you don't tell everything, you're keeping secrets. You're keeping secrets.
I did.
So
that's the first thing I said. But that's actually a good thing. Sometimes people don't need to hear everything that you have to say, and that's actually another great show topic that we can get into this year. But before we go any further, I guess I'll tell a little bit more about who I am. For this show, as most people call me, is Lady K, but I have other many names. As my basic name, which is Kimberly McLemore, and my other name is author Kimberly McLemore, and that obviously means that I am an author. I'm an award-winning author. I have 3 books out that I'm very proud of, and definitely have a 4th one coming out this year that I've been moving along, and I probably should have had it out in February because it was Valentine's Day, because it's kind of a new love story. So it's going to be real interesting to see how the response comes with this new book. But the other big part of me is the Women's Small Business Initiative program that I have, which is an online program that provides resources for any woman, of course, but men as well, to learn some new resources about going into business. And that's a huge prideful thing for me, because I believe in not reinventing the wheel and giving everybody the opportunity to take what information that's there and resources that are there so that they can become successful. And then also I collaborate every year with Move with T, and we do an amazing purple and pink Zumba event. And if you don't know what purple and pink means, basically the purple is for domestic violence awareness, and the pink is for breast cancer awareness. And they're both in the same month of October. So we put on a absolutely stunning, fun, collaborated event, and we will be doing it again for 2020. And we did the 70s for the last couple of years, so we'll still be jamming and doing some 70s, but we're gonna also increase that. But that's a huge piece for me that I'm always very excited about doing every year, and with that piece of collaboration. And then of course having this show, being the co-host of the Lady K Moments with Lady K Mistah Show. This has been something we've been working on for a while now, and now we have grown enough to where we really wanted to have our own platform, and being on iHeartRadio and Spotify and many other platforms is an honor, and to be able to do it with Mr. T, it's so even more exciting. So I think I probably be the board, or we've bored everybody listening to who we are. So it's like,
they're fine.
Okay.
They're okay.
It's time to move on. They're probably like, okay, we didn't heard enough about y'all. Can we hear about the rest of this? What's going on with the world, or what you guys are gonna be talking about? So let's dive into the topic. What does going with the flow get you nowhere? What does that really mean? How does that really affect you in your life? And, I'm going to let you start it out, because, you came up with some amazing topics this year. And this one, oh my gosh, it's like to me, it's like the normal life thing that we say, oh, we're just going to go with the flow. And I just said it earlier before I even introduced the topic, right? Because it's just a normal thing that we do. So what was your thought process when you decided, let's have this conversation today and tell our listeners about what it means to go with the flow, and where does it get you?
Well, in coming up with this title, it actually was a conversation that I had with someone back in January of 2019. And that's how far back it goes. Wow. And I was speaking with someone, and I remember she said to me, oh, this year I'm just going to go with the flow. And I was like, what? Go with the flow? I've heard that phrase before, as you said, it's like one of those typical things that we just say. It's a manner of speech that we use. And typically we use it in a way to say we're just not going to rock the boat. Or we're just going to chill, nothing major. But it was something in the way that this young lady spoke those words to me that resonated in my spirit. And I didn't know what to do with it. And it was just on my mind. And I just said, well, let me just write this down in my little memo section here. And then, as I was thinking on the subject of going with the flow and adding on gets you nowhere. And with that, like for our listeners, we purposely spelled that, well, I intentionally spelled it with a K, and then a slash, and then an N, and then Oware, Owhere. So, because there are two different thoughts for me on that subject. So, like the first part, in speaking with this young lady, she's someone that I would consider to be like I guess a mover and a shaker, or I don't want to say a major player, but an active player in the local community. And for her to say that to me, I was like, well, you mean you're just going to back off of everything that you're doing? I was thinking about, you've been doing so many things, what's going on? So it triggered some thoughts for me. But for the nowhere, Nowhere, when I think about going with the flow gets you nowhere in that instance, you're just literally shifting with the tide, going wherever, and doing whatever. There's no set rhyme or reason to what you're doing. And you're kind of living your life in a way that is not thoughtful, not intentional. And we shouldn't live our life like that. And that's where I was coming from in my thought, where I was in that space. And it may not have been where she's at in her life, but where I was in my life at that time when she stepped before us. I was like, I don't want to just be out here just going with the ebbs and the flows and, taking punches and, think about like a jellyfish when you sit in the water, how it just rises with the current and then just goes side to side. And so I was like, I don't want to be that person, It just didn't make sense to me. And in my thought process, it was, if you are seriously just going with the flow in that instance, I think to some degree you're setting yourself up for failure. Because on the other side of it, with the KNOWHER, which is not a word really, it's something I made up. But it's about getting you, right? But it's like getting you in the know. When you go with the flow that you set for a pace for yourself, when you start planning out things that you want to accomplish, like in the beginning of the year, I write down a list of goals that I want to accomplish. Just things that I know that I want to do. And my goal is to meet each of those goals. I don't always have a time frame in which I want to meet those goals, but I definitely have them. And then many times I get halfway down my list before I'm even halfway through the year. And some of them are not necessarily in like methodical order, like I have to do this, and that. But I think when we are intentional in the things that we want to do and the life that we want to live, whether it's being a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer or a medical assistant, I mean, I can go on and on with all the different types of things. If you know what it is you want to do, you can set your life up in such a way that you don't have to go with the flow. The flow can actually move with you instead. And you can actually help to kind of create the energy that flows through your life, by, if you're going with the flow, then you're going to be hanging out with lots of random people. They all have their own intentions, and and those intentions, their intentions are not necessarily in line with what you're doing with your life. And if you're going with the flow, you're just out there floating around, just hanging out and getting all kinds of whatever on you. But when you set your life up in such a way that you live it, that you know what it is you want to do, you're able, like I said, to create that environment and create the people, and you in essence invite people into your life and into your space that will help you achieve the goals that you want to reach. So, like I said, you're in essence creating your own flow. So that was kind of like my take on that. So sorry to get so deep.
No. I mean, that's the beauty about our show. It's really truly talking about our experiences, and the people that we're around sometimes can trigger certain things that make us think, right? And we're all about having those conversations. It's because we want other people to think. We want other people to realize that all our lives are different, and we have a purpose for what we're doing. But are you really living that purpose? And when I think about this topic of going with the flow gets you nowhere. I was listening to what you were saying, that this young lady is saying, hey, I'm just going to go with the flow. But sometimes I wonder, and I sit back and I think about myself and others where, we work extremely hard to get to where we want to get to in life and do the things we want to do in life. And then some days you sit back and you say to yourself, why? What is so wrong with just not doing anything? There's so many people out here who live in the same world that we live in. They could be right around the corner or standing next to us. And they are just doing exactly that. They're going with the flow. They get up every day. They do what they have to do, but there's no urgency. There's no urgency to want to change or to do what the Joneses are doing, so to speak. That's the quote that people used years ago, when it comes to being successful or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But the key is that who you are, and is that the life that you truly accept for yourself. And, when I think about when you say nowhere, the word N-O for me means that you're literally nowhere in life, no matter what it is you're doing. And there are many who live that life. And if you are about something or want something different, that is never going to be a comfort zone for you. So when you're thinking about using the word nowhere the way that we spelled it with the KNOWHER, it's really, to me, I'm thinking of it as, do you know yourself? Do you understand what that truly means when you're saying, I'm just going to go with the flow? And like we said earlier, it's a terminology that people use just out of basic necessity, but not really understanding, I don't think, how it affects them or how it is becoming a part of who they really are. When we say, oh, we'll just go with the flow. What does that really mean at that moment for you? How are you using it? Are you using it in a negative way, or are you using it in a positive way? Or is it just, hey, I'm just making a statement? I think a lot of times we don't really truly understand how our words do affect us and how we see ourselves and what we're thinking. We all go through those moments where we come to a crossstone, a path in our life where we have to determine what is really right. And we have to silence everything that's around us to make sure that we are not just going with the flow, but truly doing the things that we need to do in order to be successful, right? And so I think that it's funny how the way we think similar, but we obviously think differently in how we feel when we discuss these topics, because our experiences in our lives are very different. And then the people that we are surrounded by are very different, because we all know that even though we're living our lives separately, the people that we are engaged in, they do have some sort of effect, but it just depends on how you utilize that, and how it affects you is going to determine how you go forward. So indeed. Yeah, I just think that the topic of conversation is awesome. And I just think it's amazing how the way that we see it, there's going to be somebody who's listening right now saying, wow, that's me. That is the person that I've become, or the person that I am. Now, what do I need to do with that?
Exactly. And I also like to say, and this is a big thing for me, but I would say words mean things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people forget, they'll just start saying things, not realizing the impact that their words are actually having.
Right.
So, I'm like, words mean things. So if you're actually saying, like, one of the things for me, like when I'm planning to do things, I don't go around and talk about it to everybody, and I'm not going to hopefully this is not going to take us off topic, but, some people spend so much time talking about things,
right,
that they, like, I'm going to do this, and this, and then when you don't do it, then people silently look at you a different type of way. But, but that's where I go when I talk about words mean things, and it's being thoughtful in things that we're saying. Because like for me, going with the flow, and I love that you use this analogy, it's like having a day off. Like for me, if I'm going with the flow, maybe it's a Saturday, I'm not teaching anywhere, taking my dog out, I don't have anywhere to be, and I can take the day to just like turn off,
right,
and recharge. And I'm sitting there in front of like Netflix or listening to music or maybe all of the above, maybe doing dancing or just playing with the dog, brushing him out, just sitting out on the patio if it's nice outside. Going with the flow to me means having a moment when you can retract, and that's okay. So I want everybody to know, all of our listeners to know that's healthy. We need those days to kind of recharge. But to say for the year that you're going to just go with the flow, I'm like, that's a long time.
That's right.
For a moment, go with the flow. But for that length of time, it's quite lengthy. And it also, like in that conversation that I had with that young lady, it made me think about, are you actually living life or merely existing within it? Mm-hmm. So, because that makes the entire difference between going nowhere with the K or being in the know with the K-N-O-W, or going nowhere N-O. Are you actually living life or just merely existing within it? And for me, I prefer not to just exist with anything, because I like to remind myself that I'm special. I is kind. I'm a somebody.
That's right. Stuff. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And also, I had another little piece to this, and it was just that, and it was just a little minor piece in my thought. That if you're going with the flow, this is going to be okay. I want to make sure I say this in the right way. But to me, when I think of people who just strictly go with the flow, especially if they do it all the time, I think of them as unoriginal. Mm-hmm. Like they're not living their life in a way to make themselves, to allow their authenticity, to allow their spirit, to allow their star to shine. And I think you mentioned just going through the you mentioned going through their day-to-day routines. Right. You're just going through. You get up, you go through your routine. You're not even following a script at that point. You're on cruise control, and so you're not living your life. And none of us were put here to live our lives in an unoriginal sense. We're all special. We're all unique. Even if you're a twin, a triplet, a quadruplet, sextuplet, all that stuff. Your DNA may be very similar, but there are still things that are different. And so, and for those of us who aren't, who are just born as single bodies, that makes you even more special, because there's nobody else out there like you. So, you should take full advantage of that and share whatever energy, whatever that thing is that makes you special. Share that with the world, rather than bottling it up and just going with the flow and seeing what happens. Because life is a little too short, and the older we get, the more short we see that it is.
Right. Right. Well, and I was gonna say too that the thing that most people need to understand is that it's not even about getting old anymore. There should be no time limit on anything in life, and we all know that sharing certain things or trying to be a part of this world can be very difficult. There's a lot of fear that comes with that, because people are worried about retribution. They're worried about what others think or say. How are they going to like me? And really, it's not even about that. When we're saying, are you living or are you existing? And actually, that's one of my books that talks about that. The pros and cons of balancing life, the understanding about what it is that you're doing. Why are you constantly living through other people's, their lens, their world, where you have your own? And we all have gone through that struggle. When you're trying to find yourself and you're trying to growing can be very painful, because you don't always have people who can see what you're seeing or feel what you're feeling. So it's important that you realize that there's only one person that to me in my world that I think that I have to have that full acceptance of. And that's whatever the guidance the Lord gives me in order to say, hey, it's that time for you to make that move. It's that time for you to not be on that flow level. It's that time. And then also it's the time of when to know when to step back, when to know that enough is enough and that you've done what you need to do for now. Because we all know that our journeys continue to change. If you're willing to make those changes, if you're willing to make those steps in life that you needed to make in order to live a fulfilled life, right? So
that's right.
It's difficult. It's difficult to understand sometimes because we don't have all the answers. But the key is that I honestly believe our paths are always have been there for us. It's us as human beings that we have a tendency to take ourselves off the path because we think that we do have the right answers. And I believe that going with the flow of the guidance that is given to us, and we all know what that is for us. And, I'm not here to preach anybody. I'm not here to stroke religion or whatever. I don't want people to, because we all have our own views of how we see things. But I do honestly believe that we struggle hard because we're always taking ourselves off the path that's already set for us. Because sometimes it is hard to face. It's hard to want to see and reach out to what's there and why those paths have been set. And we're saying to ourselves, well, that's not where the direction I want to go. I want to go this direction. No, there's a reason why you're being pushed. And when you think that you know the answer and you think you can do it better, that's when 90% of the time we find ourselves not going, that flow is not the flow that we're supposed to be on. So, the journey of getting old is not what people think it is. And I think that we definitely have to get our minds out of that mindset that, we're getting older, or once we get to this point, that we don't know. We don't know what our lives are going to be like. We don't know what it means to get to 53 or 54, or if you're in your 40s or 30s. We don't know from day to day if we're going to wake up to go with the flow. So you better live the life and trust the journey that you're on, because there's a reason for that journey.
All right. Hey,
hallelujah. Hey. Well, it's just something you do think about. And, and I always laugh when you're around younger people, you always hear, oh, I can't believe you're that old. Well, you know what? You better hope that and pray that you can get to this age, because we're not guaranteed we're definitely not guaranteed. And so sometimes when you're just living, like you said, just kind of going with that flow, and you're not being your authentic self, and you're not doing the things that you want to do in life, because we always in the back of our minds think that we have tomorrow, but tomorrow may never come. Those are the things that we constantly put in the back of our heads, because we feel that we're too tired, we're too this, we got so much going on. And that's why I say sometimes it's always best to, like you said, when you have those downtime days, to really truly utilize those days to the best of your ability, and not worry about some of the things, because that helps you get back into the right flow of things, so that you can continue to live the journey of your life in the way that it should be lived. I'm done preaching.
Oh, I loved all of that. I loved all of that. Wow. I got some little goosebumps.
Ooh, thank you. Well, I think that because, those are things that is any human being, and I'm gonna be real here, we all struggle with it. I struggle sometimes every day trying to figure out, what am I doing? Why am I doing it this way? Do I just need to slow it down, go with the flow of life? What is it that I'm searching and reaching for? We all go through that. And if you're not being real with yourself, then you're never going to understand it. You're never going to truly be the person that you want to be, or that God has set for you to be. Because like I said, a big part of it is fear. A big part of it is having to look in that mirror every day and ask yourself these questions and wonder, is this who I am? Is this what you expected me to be? Because like I said, we are all here and brought in this world for a reason and a purpose. And it's just living that purpose. But are we really doing that? And if you can answer yes to everything, then you don't need to hear anything we got to say or care, right? It's like, you don't need my opinion on anything. But if you're being true,
we still want you to listen, though. We still want you to listen.
Right. But
and
but
you can tune in and like, and then you can just turn the volume down.
Exactly. Something you don't want to hear, turn it down and then turn it back on, right? But just being realistic with yourself is looking yourself in the mirror and asking those hard questions that we don't always want to face, right? It is what it is in that perspective. Yeah. Whew. All right, then. Well, we done got deep up in here today on this show. Deep.
Yes, we did. Yes. Coming in March like a lion.
Yes.
Wow.
Woo! Yeah, everybody's probably sitting there like, man, this is a topic of, and it's a good topic that people just need to have. Like I said, you have it with yourself and talk to other people. And it's not so much that it's about them changing who you are, and not everybody's going to appreciate your journey that you're on, and it's okay. But usually if you're in the same room with people that you can communicate with, it's amazing what you can learn, not just about them, but more about who you are. Because
exactly.
Yeah, because everything around us affects us, and it's how you handle it. So, your conversation with that young lady might only took 5 or 10 minutes, but within that 5 or 10 minutes, it was something that stuck out to you that made you think. And when things make you think, then there's a purpose behind it.
Right.
Whew, I don't know. I think I've exhausted myself on this, so I'm not gonna keep preaching anymore. I'm done preaching on this topic for the day. But do you have anything else that you would like to add in there, Mr. T?
No, I think we about covered all of it. There was a poem that I found that fit some of your points exactly, and I think it mirrors what we were talking about with the doing the work and then kind of taking a break, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it goes. I don't know if it's a poem or so much of just a quote or a nice statement, but it goes: flow, row. Flow, row. You need intention and surrender to get where you're going. And I was like, that makes so much more sense. Mm-hmm. Because you can chill, but then you have to do some work. You can rest, and then you can do some work. And you need a balance of both of those two forces, if you will, if you're really going to succeed and get to where you're planning to go. As long as you have a plan to get somewhere, which I think we have coming up in an upcoming show. We'll probably get more into some of that. So.
Yeah. And I like that. Yeah. I like that. Say that poem again.
Flow, row, flow, row. You need intention and surrender to get where you're going.
All right, y'all heard it. You heard it from the man, Mr. T. And you're right. It's really no different than what we've been talking about, and it's a perfect poem to inspire people and to understand. And everything we've talked about in the last 30 minutes is truly getting people to rethink your life, get up off your seat, understanding that there is a huge difference between going with the flow and where does it get you in life. And that's the key thing. Are you being stagnant, or are you willing to move? What is it you're trying to accomplish so that you can not just exist, but you can live? So I'm gonna stop there, because when we do our show topic for next month, oh my God, this is a perfect flow into what we're talking about. So, I'm not gonna get any more deeper on this, but as you know, we are getting close to the end of the show, and I do hope that we have inspired somebody this evening with listening to this topic of going with the flow gets you nowhere, because that's what we're about. We're all about making sure that you if you're going through something rough in life, that you do truly understand what that is. And we're hoping that our words have inspired you, our conversation, and our thoughts. And even though they may not be exactly like yours, but there's something that triggers you to help you continue to move forward. And Mr. T, is there anything else that you would like to add to that about the moment of inspiration?
Sure. Well, before I get into that, I do want to just give a shout out because it was cut off. But for the poem or the quote that we just shared, it's from Teryck. I don't know if I'm saying his last name, but I just want to give him credit. I want to take credit for it because it's not.
Look, we got to give you credit for using it, okay?
Yeah. I don't want to get no piece of paper on the door,
right?
On the door, like, hey, you took my quote. But so that belongs to somebody else. So I don't know him, and he does not know me. But hey, there you go. But for our moment of inspiration, it was just something that we shared during our discussion topic. It's just, are you actually living life or merely existing within it?
Love it.
Yeah, that just resounded. That resounded with me, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's going to be the moment of inspiration.
Well, and you said it, and like I said, we said a lot of things on our show this evening, and if you haven't been inspired, then please let us know. Let us know that we're doing something wrong, but I believe that everything that we discussed tonight in this conversation has been above and beyond inspiring, and like I said, our goal is to make somebody feel better. Understand that, hey, if you're going through that rough patch, you need a hug, that's what we're here to do. We're hugging you from afar, but we're also giving you the words that you need and some resources that it will help you continue to move forward. But like I said, Mr. T, this is the part I always hate. If we're coming to the end of our show, and it's our first show of the season, but it has been so much fun. And as usual, I always enjoy spending time with you.
And you, Lady K.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, darling. But as you all know, like I said, it's a new show. We have our new platform. We are now on iHeartRadio and Spotify and many others. And you will be able to find all those details on our Facebook page. We will be here every month on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. And we really do appreciate you all listening to our show this evening. If you would like to be a guest in the future, please reach out to us on our Lady K and Mr. T Facebook page, and we'll try to get all that set up with you. But until then, you enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Moments with Lady K and Mr. T will return next month at 7 p.m. Follow us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.